Yo, what's up guys, hope you guys are doing good. So today we are going to see what if sealed Naruto awakes after 1000 years part 2. Hope you will enjoy this video, so before we start please like the video and subscribe to our channel and hit bell notification, it motivates me to upload more fanfic for my lovely audience. So let's get started. Naruto stood at the Sokyuku hill watching all of Saraite. It was such a quiet place now, and it seems that the laws have become relaxed unlike the old days. The only thing that was out of the Soul Society's control was him. No one could control him. Even if they gathered all the strongest man in the spiritual world, no one could control him. Being controlled by someone was beyond anyone. Not even the Soul King could come close to achieving that goal. It was the same as trying to manipulate him. He refused to be manipulated. The reality might be that he was still forced to act as a captain for the Gote 13, but that did not mean that he was under anyone's control. He was merely playing a part that he would abandon soon. Nothing was permanent. Genryusai could enjoy his false victory for now. But Uchiha Naruto is never down. The only way to bring him down is to kill him, but there was a problem with that: he could not be killed by any living Shinigami or Hollow. The old Gote 13 was very strict and powerful. Yamamoto did anything to win. The old man was truly cold and heartless during those days. He had no trouble in sacrificing his subordinates as long as he could win. Perhaps he was still the same, but he could feel that the Sotecho was no longer the same as he was back then. He had now become old and soft. But his power still remained. It was still no power that would give him nightmares. There was no one with power that would give him fear. Only his own power he could make him afraid. It was beyond what anyone could imagine. They had not yet seen anything. All they have been seeing were mere illusions. They would one day see his glory, and then they would know why he is god of the spirit world. The little charade with Aizen was no problem to his recovery. In fact, it would prove to be beneficiary to him. The child Aizen seemed to be full of tricks and wits. Perhaps he should visit the child and see him with his own eyes. That would certainly be a good plan. But he would have to finish some business first. It was still early months. It had been 3 months since he was unsealed. That was why he had been able to see that Soul Society was different from the past. But it was no consequence to him. The more interesting things became, the more fun he had. His lieutenant was pretty much useless. She was weak-minded and somewhat a lost child. He did not like to handle mundane affairs in his division. He had no time to deal with hollows that he could kill by just flicking his fingers. He had no time to do paperwork. He let those beneath him handle those matters. But over the time, he had drilled in a strong attitude to the girl. It was a little better than when he had her discharged from mental care. It had been quite a scuffle with Retsu, as the woman was not pleased with her patients being released before they could completely recover. But he did not operate like that. Out of all the worthless Shinigami he had to tolerate in his presence, she was the only one who was capable. That was why he forced her to be released and returned to work. Naruto looked the sky with an unreadable expression on his face. "It is starting," he said silently. A wall of black Reiatsu surrounded him. It came from the ground, not from him. The wall covered all his body and sprouted above the grounds, creating a huge black pillar. The wall would restrain any Reiatsu from leaving the execution grounds. But it was certain the captains and lieutenants would be able to feel it. He had set it up so not to have his leaking Reiatsu disrupt the activities in Soul Society. The Central 46 had been restored again. They would ask him infuriating questions about it, and he did not want to end up killing them all for it. Because the pillar was huge and was at execution grounds, it was quickly noticed by the Soul Reapers. Many rushed to the grounds to see what was happening there. But then the execution grounds began to tremble violently. It was in a scary way that they shook. The fact that they were shaking caused the low-level Soul Reapers to stay away from the grounds in fear. A message was issued for everyone to stay away from the grounds, except for the captains. What is going on here? Soy Fan questioned, looking at her fellow captains. She was completely in the dark about what was going on inside the pillar of Reiatsu. But whatever it was nothing good. By the trembling of the ground, and the oppressing feeling coming off the pillar, she could tell that there was not a good thing happening in the atmosphere was oppressing, unlike anything she had ever felt before. And each second, the air became even heavier. I don't really know what is going on, Hitsugaya Tushiro was the first to respond. He looked at the elder captains. Perhaps you might have some insight on this, he stated, seeing the focused look on the oldest of the captains. Yama Jiji, Kyoraku said without looking at the captain commander, who had not said a word since arriving. Given that he is not with us here and that he is the only one who has given off this feeling even to captains, we can say that he is inside there, he stated. Yamamoto nodded. It is him, there is no doubt about that. I can never forget the scent of his Reiatsu. Even if I can barely feel it, I can never mistake it. He paused for a moment. But that leaves a question, what is going inside there? Where is Shutara, by the way? Jushiro questioned. Should not she have been here to witness this, knowing that it is him? Naruto might have told her not to come here, Unohana stated, bringing some insight. If this was pre-planned, he would have told Shutara-san to stay at the house and ignore the whole mess. That still does not answer what is going on, Soy Fan stated as she released her own Reiatsu to battle with the oppressing atmosphere around her. I have noticed that our 5th squad captain had been leaking Reiatsu over the past weeks with my equipment, Mayuri stated, smiling. He was the only one who seemed to have an idea as to what was going on here. It always pleased him when things like this happened. It also brought him joy when everyone was clueless except for him. Can you explain? I thought his Reiatsu could not be sensed, Byakuya stated, looking at the grinning 12th Division captain. I doubt your simple mind will be able to understand it even if I explain it to you, Mayuri responded coolly. Perhaps it is not that case, you yourself might be unable to explain the phenomena, Unohana stated with a kind smile that did nothing but to infuriate the 12th Division captain. But before he could retort, a loud thunderous roar escaped from the pillar. The roar had them shut their ears because of its loudness. The roar was glass-shattering, everyone in Seraite heard it. But because of the orders to stay away from the execution grounds, they all stayed put. This was followed by large cracks on the execution grounds. The cracks stemmed from the pillar and outstretched a few feet away. Within those cracks a dark black smoke began to arise slowly. This was followed by what seemed to be black flames in all the cracks that had appeared from the ground. The ground had stopped trembling by now. The oppressing atmosphere only continued to become even heavier, forcing all the captains to release their own Reiatsu to counter it. It was then that a piercing scream followed. It was definitely the voice of Uchiha Naruto. It was certain that whatever he was going through was painful. If one did not certainly know him, they would pity the man. Unohana realized that he might have been losing his power. Naruto had confirmed to her that his Reitsu had started to leak out of his body. But it was faint, so no one could feel it. Mayuri had just confirmed it with his equipment. But still, this atmosphere was not of a person who was losing power but of one who was gaining power. Had Naruto lied to her? No, he would not have. She had never heard him scream like that. He never even raised his voice loudly. The painful scream continued for several minutes, before finally dying down. Then the oppressing atmosphere disappeared into thin air. The flames that had been acting up in the cracks disappeared. This caused the captains to sigh in relief and stop releasing their own Reiatsu. Cracks began to appear on the pillar, one by one. The sound of glass shattering invaded the ears of the captains. After a few minutes had passed, the unthinkable occurred. Boom! A heavy Reiatsu exploded along with the pillar and crushed the younger captains, forcing them down their knees. The older ones remained standing. All of Seraite came to a standstill. Yamamoto had his eyes now fully opened. A furious wind then threatened to throw them off the execution grounds, but they stood still. All the debris died down and Reiatsu became unbearable for the younger captains. The debris died down, and within a few moments, they could now see a swirl of pure black flames. The flames swirled around in midair for a few moments before in an instant. They disappeared, revealing a figure. They then appeared above him and seemed to compress before forming a black thin blade. The blade seemed to descend down beside figure, until it stopped in air at his side. The figure had blonde hair reaching down his waist. His face was looking up the sky. Uchiha Naruto. He was dressed in a simple white cloak and had nothing on his feet. His body stood motionless for a few moments and none of the captains dared to speak. His body then seemed to twitch and he held out his right hand. The blade fell on it and he grabbed it by its handle. Slowly his head then moved to face the captains. When they saw his face, they noticed a notable change. He looked younger, perhaps like a 19-year-old in human years. His eyes were also closed. Naruto held out his right hand and looked at it. His eyes were still closed as he did this. I have regressed to my youth look, he said to himself. His tone was just dead, devoid of any life or emotion. It actually made a few of the captains uncomfortable. He walked towards the captains without his feet touching the ground and his eyes still closed. He stopped in front of them and his closed eyes looked at the younger captains. How weak, a power of this level frightens you. A moment ago, you could not even stand. Shinakuni, you have not trained these children well, Naruto stated in the same deathly tone. Yamamoto did not say anything and Soi-Fan only settled for a glare at the blonde. Are you blind? Kyoraku asked suddenly, seeing the blonde not having opened his eyes. No, Naruto responded without even looking at the man. But I have temporarily lost my eyes. The eyes I have now only see black and white. It makes using them useless. But it is only temporarily. Can I see them? Mayuri asked with interest. Naruto looked at the man and opened his left eye slightly. The reaction was instantaneous. The captain backed away from the blonde with cold sweat running over his face. Fear gripped his heart like the claws of a vasto lord had found its way towards his heart. It felt like his heart was being pulled out of his body. He felt as though his life was being crushed. The cold grip of fear had plowed through his chest. The full weights of the blonde's Reiatsu was on him. Just by looking at his eyes, he could see the pools of power the man had, and there was this roar inside his head that felt like each time it roared, it was coming close to him. And when Naruto closed his eyes, everything he felt disappeared. Naruto's eyes were pure black. They were just like an endless void of darkness. There was something else behind the darkness, Mayuri could not quite place it. What did you do to him? Soi-Fan almost yelled at him, seeing the proud and prideful Mayuri wimping out in front of other captains. How loud, Naruto said. He did not even bother to look at the captain. He looked at the Reiatsu of Unohana. Looking into my eyes makes one see and experience the measure of my power to some extent. You must know what happens when Yamamoto releases his Shikai in front of anyone other than a captain. That was a lie. Well, not the Yamamoto part. What Mayuri had experienced was but a mere illusion. It was a trick played by his mind because of the potency and density of his Reiatsu. And it only happened because his Reiatsu was still moving about the atmosphere. Should the man look into his eyes again, nothing would happen, he would only see the endless darkness. You said the eyes you have now, does this mean you don't have the eyes you had before? A curious Byakuya questioned the blonde. He was not the only one to have picked up on that. But he had been the first to question. No, the blonde responded. I have not lost my eyes. As I said, it is only temporary. He was not going to explain what had happened or anything else about his eyes. It was a bothersome task and it would do him no good to tell them. It was best to keep it to himself. The captains already knew him enough to know that he was not going to give any more answers to that question. Yamamoto closed his eyes before opening them again. His stuff hit the ground to silence everyone so he could speak. He did not want anyone interrupting him while he spoke. He had given them enough time to speak. You cannot actually see, can you? Naruto's expression remained impassive as his face moved to the figure of Yamamoto. What makes you say that? The blonde asked, not even sounding the least curious to find the answer from the Sotecho. It is just a conclusion I came up with since I have observed you so far, the oldest-looking captain stated, looking straight at Naruto. It was a bit unnerving to have the blonde look at him with his eyes closed. The eyes of a person spoke always communicated. But with them being closed, he could never get any message. Naruto seemed to think of a respond. I can see. As I said, my current vision with my eyes is black and white. These eyes can only see only that which is spirit. Anything that is not spirit can be felt by my other senses. So you can say, I can't see more than you can of the world around you, the blonde explained calmly. So even if he could not see, his senses took over and made him see everything. Yamamoto was silent for a few moments before looking at Naruto sternly. Are you going to explain what had just happened now? He said in a flat tone. Naruto flicked his blade, the blade had 5 small holes on its black hilt. One of Naruto's finger found its way into the middle hole before the sword was spun around the finger like a fan. When it stopped spinning, the blonde flicked it again and held it rightly. It then became engulfed in black flames. When the flames disappeared, the sword was just a normal katana. But its hilt was dark red. The blonde then snapped his left fingers, but nothing happened. He did this while the captains waited patiently for him to answer Yamamoto's question. The unexpected, finally Naruto responded to the question. It was not a response that neither of the captains had been expecting. What do you mean? Hana was the first to question. You recognize this appearance, don't you, Yamamoto? The captain commander nodded. It is the appearance I had when you recruited me into the Shinigami Academy. You told me that I was a shell of my former self. In truth, I was, literally. So what had just happened now, was the shell shattering, and this resulted in what you see now. The fact that this happened while you were here means that you knew it was going to happen. But when you say, unexpected, are you saying that you were not expecting it to end this way? Yamamoto questioned curiously. If you have regressed to this appearance, does this mean that your power has also regressed to that state? Still sharp as ever, Naruto commented shortly after Genryusai had spoken. What? Soifan questioned. Are you saying that all that power he released was the power before he evolved? Naruto had evolved after he had left the Gote 13, as to what they were told. By the time Yamamoto recruited him, he had yet to evolve, which means not as powerful. But the power he had released was more than anything she had ever experienced before. He said he was a shell, literally, Mayuri intervened. It could mean that he was a shell that was containing his former power. And when the Reitsu exploded, it broke through the shell. The power that was released in his shell state. It was not in this form. So it could mean that he does not have that power we felt a few moments ago, Toshiro stated, adding to Mayuri's theory. All the captains looked at the blonde to see what he would say about their theories. Despite being weak, your children have sharp minds, Naruto stated looking at Yamamoto. His feet then touched the ground. That is true, I have lost my evolution. But you must not forget Yamamoto, no one knew the true extent of my power even at this form. But even so, you are no longer as powerful as you were when I fought you. He paused for a moment trying to see if Naruto would object. Your blade, it is similar to Amaterasu in its Shikai, but in its sealed state, it is different. That is because it is not Amaterasu. But you knew that already, did you not? The flames that engulfed it were not in fact flames. You saw that. What you don't understand is what it was. Let me enlighten you then, it was pure Reiatsu. Naruto paused for a moment. Well, that is enough questions, I will take my leave. With that he was gone without a trace of him left. That man infuriates me. I don't even know why he is even allowed to leave. He caused all this commotion and he has the decency to leave us when he wills. Central 46 won't be happy about this, Soy Fan stated. I will handle Central 46, Yamamoto stated. You just make sure that you keep everyone calm and that there is no trouble. With that, the captain commander disappeared off to Central 46 before they could summon Naruto without informing him. Naruto might not be as strong as he was, but he was still the same. Given how stubborn Central 46 tended to be, Naruto would certainly do something. He did not want another massacre. That man is just trouble. Again, Soy Fan was first to speak. She clearly held no love for the man, it was certain. He should be apologizing for making this ruckus. Soy Fan Taicho, yelling like that will not solve anything, Unohana stated in a calm tone. She then disappeared off to calm down her squad. One by one, the captains left the execution grounds. Under Squad 5 barracks. The events had been unexpected. He had not expected things to flow the way they did. Everything had been according to his plan, until this. He disliked it when things did not go according to plan. But it was alright since it had worked for the better. But in this way, the Soul King will be keeping a rather close on him. Still, he would have to be awake to do that. He was sure that the sleep-obsessed fool would not have gone back to sleep after his release. What really happened? The voice of Amaterasu spoke to him within his head. The part of his soul had already separated itself from Amaterasu. After that, he was only waiting for the time his body would give up. He had to be where the portal his soul was trapped within. That place was the execution grounds. When his body gave up, and shattered to reform again, his soul would also lose shape. During this process, the part of his soul within the portal would come to him and they merge with the other half. But the merge could not be complete, it would be imperfect. He would need to consume something powerful to complete the merger. Still, because his evolution would be lost, he would have lost much of his power. But he could no longer be at risk. That was what he had expected things to go. He did not expect him to intervene with the process. What he had been conscious was that he had been sleeping because of the seal. But the process he was going through must have somehow weakened the seal, only slightly though. But it was enough for him to wake up and act. Perhaps he had been awake this whole time. He intervened with the process and used his power to perfect the merger of my soul. He is also responsible for making me regress to this state. The blade I have now is a small percentage of the power he was able to leak out of the seal when it was weakened. That was certainly unexpected, Amaterasu stated, echoing Naruto's thoughts. Does this mean you are now complete? No, Naruto responded, shaking his head. I do not have you. But all the missing parts of my soul have been formed. My soul is now complete. It will take some time for my body to adjust. But this form makes it easier because it is young. There is also a barrier that has developed. But once my soul and body have adjusted to the changes, they will start to work towards perfection. When that happens, the barrier will cease to exist. Well, at least you did not become weak, as you would have if he had not intervened, Amaterasu said. What is happening to your eyes? Before I was returned here, that thing forcibly made my other eyes disappear. I don't know how he did it, but the consequences were that I had to lose not just my eyes but some of my powers. But because everything was born from my soul, I could manifest them again. I just did not have the power. He gave me the power. At the moment, the darkness is my eyes, is just a veil covering my real eyes while they are still being developed to their full potential. How long will it take? A short time, possibly less than a week, Naruto responded. He did not really have an accurate answer as to when his eyes would be ready to function again. Do you think he did it out of generosity? No, I do not possess such a thing. It would be a disgrace to see me weak. He and I agree on that one. But he still refused to speak to me before the seal strengthened. What really goes on between you two? He and I were one. We were a single being, I was him and he was me. I was God before he was separated from me. Years ago when I was young, and still had many emotions, I fell in love with this woman. She was a lot older than me but I did not care. I loved her, and so I showed her my true power. She was the first person to witness it, not even my grandfather saw it, but he was suspicious. My power scared her, and she tried to seal my power. But it resulted in her splitting me in two. The other half was too powerful, so she sealed him deep inside my soul. That was before your fall from grace, Amaterasu stated. Naruto nodded. Everything is in motion now. No sooner than later, I will be complete. Amaterasu did not respond as she disappeared from his mind after those words. I am one who is above all powers. Naruto looked towards the ceiling of his lab. He sighed realizing that all he could see was darkness. Despite this being a good thing, it bothered him how much. He was able to intervene on things and do as he pleased. He had no problems with him, but this was his body and he was the one with the superior will. He was the original, anything happening should be because he allowed it to happen. He did not think that he would do anything to harm him. Despite the other half being much dark, they were still the same person. But the fact that he had been left vulnerable to made him feel, not so happy. He was proud to being in charge of everything, but here, he had not been in charge. Well, I should not complain, the blonde said to himself. I can move forward with everything. This only changes the direction I will have to take. But in the end, it will lead me to the same point. And it is still I who caused the change. Perhaps I am becoming obsessed with control issues. Now he would not have to worry about retrieving the small part of his soul that was missing. Everything was inside his body. He now had all the materials, but his body and soul would have to adapt first for him to move on to the next step. His eyes would manifest soon, and when they do, he will be pleased. But given that now he could not view the world in a way he wanted, he would have to remain rooted at this place. But it was no bother, as long as he would soon get his bright vision back. Sacrifices were necessary for the greater good. He had thought that his little show would not attract much attention, but it did. Yamamoto would have certainly gone to the Central 46 to calm them down, but he knew better than that. Regardless who was put in there, they will always have the same attitude. It was like that building possessed those people to think and act as the previous ones. They were certainly not going to accept whatever Yamamoto would say to them. Those fools were only going to be pleased unless the words came out of his mouth. He would have to restrain himself if they speak nonsense. And if he kills them, it would not work good for him. That thing would send his guards to come rushing at him to restrain him. Surely by now, he must know that he was not going to die. No doubt, he was busy planning something. But as long as he kept it low, that fool will settle for keeping a close eye on him. Later. Naruto looked at his blade, it felt strong and its reiatsu was a lot more potent than his own. Perhaps it was because it was a mixture of his and his. With this blade, he could no longer use his fake Amaterasu. This one was perfect too to be used by him. He could feel it even by holding it that it was no ordinary blade. But it had been ignoring him ever since it was formed. He could not know any of its abilities or its bankai if it refused to speak to him. He knew that he had imprinted his consciousness upon the blade. But given that he was a lot more moody, he would have to be patient and for him to talk to him. But he disliked carrying a weapon without knowing anything about it. Even when it was made of his power. It is not that I am ignoring you, I have been busy trying to stay within the blade. Finally he spoke, stopping any further thoughts from the blonde. Trying to stay within the blade. Naruto repeated those curious words. But he was a little pleased with the fact that his blade was now speaking. You know that your will always overpowers mine. So given that your power forms half of the blade's power, the will in your power was trying to override my consciousness. The voice did not seem pleased with what had tried to happen. Why did you not just let that happen? I have been unconscious for 1,000 of years in our body. I would like to be alive before you completely consume me. I see, Naruto stated, having realized something. During the time the seal was weakened, you transferred some parts of your conscious into the blade knowing that after I undo the seal, you will cease to exist. So becoming my blade keeps you alive. This is the result of that woman's meddling. If she had not, we would still be one. Yes. You are mad, you know that. No one would have challenged you after you went back to that dimension. There was no one who could challenge you, even without your true power, but you were not satisfied with that, were you? You are wrong, that thing could challenge me. He just would not be able to kill me. That is why I had to form this risky plan to restore myself completely once I had recovered my memories. I knew that it would always be a challenge to me if I did not reclaim all my being. But still, going through all this, I know that he did not know that he could be a match for you. He might have thought that you were complete. I was not satisfied with being imperfect. And besides, I could not do all that I could without being complete. So what now? I shall call you Shiguguru, now and forever, Naruto stated. Shiguguru. You will represent death once I have ascended to heaven, and Amaterasu will represent life. But to shorten things, I will simply call you Shi, Naruto explained. Now, tell me about your abilities. Naruto's house, later that day. I have been looking for you for quite some time, Hana stated as she appeared on top of Naruto's roof where the blonde was lying down. I have been expecting you to show up, Naruto stated with his eyes still closed. I am a little surprised that you took so long to come. I had some business to take care of before looking for you. When I decided to look for you, I realized you were no longer in your lab. What were you even doing there when you can't see to operate it? Are you mocking me, Retsu? Naruto questioned as the woman went to sit beside him. No, I am just curious. I was thinking, Naruto responded. The lab was his quiet place. The house was also quiet. Where is Shutara? I have not seen her in a number of days. She was summoned to the Soul King's dimension, Naruto responded. Hana looked at Naruto curiously. What for? She did not want to think that she was there to report everything she has seen with Naruto. If so, Naruto would surely kill her. For her mind to be read, Naruto responded without even looking concerned for the matter. Poor thing, she is not even aware of it. The only reason she was brought to Seraite was for this purpose. You knew she was being used and you still did not tell her. What of the other reason you told her? That is also true. He will know everything and about me too, she stated. It would be trouble for her because she had withheld much information about Naruto from everyone. Shutara knows this, and if her mind is read, she would be discovered. Let it be. He won't do anything so long as I am alive. He already knows that I won't die. I did not even tell Shutara everything, and with the unexpected having occurred, what he will find out will be of no use, Naruto explained. But when you leave again, I will. Be quiet. Naruto stated in a firm tone. You will not be killed. No one will touch you. And I will not allow you to allow yourself to be killed. Hana was quiet for a moment. What will you do about Shutara then? I will kill her, but not now. For now, I will let her enjoy her life. But I will send a message to the Soul King to inform him that he should stop using her. He spoke of killing the only woman he cares for like it was nothing. Don't do it, Hana stated. She definitely did not want Shutara to die. Okay, Naruto responded to Unohana's request. Would you like to see heaven, Yakiru? I have seen your dimension before. Isn't it heaven? No, Naruto responded shaking his head. The real heaven, only two have seen it. Only I who is alive now has seen it. Hana was quite, again. It was unlike him to ask her a question like that. Normally he would not have made such a request. She wondered what drove him to ask such a question. She could feel that he had not spoken to Shutara about this subject. But here he was speaking to her about it. Are you going to tell me about the unexpected? She said, changing the subject. No, Naruto responded. It is best you don't know this. He paused for a moment when he sensed something. Ah, Shutara is back, he said. Hana quieted as she waited for Shutara to come to their location. She would certainly sense them and come up here. It took a few moments for Shutara to appear before them. She had an angry look on her face. You knew, didn't you? She demanded, glaring at Naruto. Despite his blindness, he could feel her glare. Oh, so you discovered the reason you were summoned, the blonde stated, knowing why she would glare at him like that. Hana remained quiet, choosing not to get involved with this matter. Unbelievable. You knew about this and you said nothing. How could you? She looked at Hana. Did you also know about this? Before Hana could answer, Naruto spoke. So you will no longer be summoned. Yes, Shutaro responded. Good, this settles things, Naruto stated as he got up. You will no longer feel some sense of loyalty to that thing. Shutara then noticed his appearance. What happened to you? Although he had gone back to wearing the attire he wore when he visited the human world, his face could still be clearly seen that it had become younger. The unexpected, Naruto responded as he walked past Hana. I am going to rest my body. After what I went through today, I have to sleep for some time. Don't wake me up. With that he was gone. Do you know? Shutara questioned Retsu to see if she was aware of the unexpected. There was a possibility that Naruto had told her. But even if he had told her, she would not tell her. That was not important though. What she wanted to confirm was if she was told or not. No, Hana said, shaking her head. He did not tell me anything. He only said it was best I did not know. I think that also extends to you. Cold bastard, Shutara muttered. He refuses to tell me everything, and he threatens to kill me. I don't think I can handle this anymore, she said, sitting down tiredly. Hana offered no words of comfort. She thought this was better than being killed. But it was certain that if she thought of leaving Naruto, he would kill her for that. Naruto did not accept rejection. But she was not going to say anything. Shutara was aware of this fact. And it was not her place to say anything. The following day, Naruto walked out of his slumber room with an impassive look on his face. Shutara was close by him. It was very much annoying that he had to be awaked from his sleep. His body was torn apart and then reformed again. His body had been torn up to pieces and put together, literally. The process was painful, hence he needed his rest. But these fools had the audacity to force themselves to his house. Finally, the captain of the 2nd Division said, releasing a sigh. Central 46 won't be happy with you after all the efforts it took to get you to leave your room. She smirked at the thought though. With this, Naruto would get in trouble for this. She would gladly see him get punished. Naruto walked towards the woman, his eyes still closed. The Reiatsu he was releasing was deathly. It caused the members of the covert corps to step away from the blonde. Naruto stopped in front of Soi Fan. He opened his eyes, forcing her to go through the same experience as Mayuri. While she was still going through the ordeal, Naruto grabbed her neck. He left her unable to breathe properly with his grip. His left hand pierced through her left shoulder like it was made of steel. Arg! Soi Fan shrieked out in pain. The pain she felt broke her out of her illusionary state. Her group was quick to try to attack Naruto, but the blonde quickly took out his blade. Naruto, you will end up destroying the house, Shutara stated with a calm look on her face. She had told Soi Fan that Naruto had told her that he should not be awakened. She knew he would react like this. She did not care though. And there was the fact that she was still angry at being used. Naruto disappeared from the house and went a distance away. He looked towards the covert core as they appeared before the blonde. He drew out his sword. Bastard. You will pay for this. Pay. Naruto questioned in a hollow tone. Soy Fan charged towards him in a bleeding state. Naruto sighed as he opened his left eye. She was a little bit fast for a child. But she was still a child nonetheless. A half-formed Sharingan appeared on his left eye. As soon as the women reached him, he released his Reiatsu, freezing her enough for him to move towards her and gripped her by her neck for the second time. I have no time to play for with children, he stated. But you have annoyed me. He left. I was forced to fully develop. It turned into the eternal Mangekyo. Now then, experience hell. Nothing came out of Soy Fan's mouth as within the next second, she fell down the ground. The rest of the covert core tried to attack him, but Naruto raised his right hand, a black ball of energy begun to form at an insanely fast speed on his right palm. But before Naruto could release it, another wave of heavy Reiatsu hit the area. The blonde's technique disappeared from his hand and he turned around to look at Yamamoto with his one opened eye. He closed it because it was painful as he had forced its development by pushing much of his power to make it happen. What is the meaning of this? Yamamoto questioned, looking straight at Naruto. His other eye was looking at the fallen Soy Fan. She was still alive. Naruto did not respond. He took a few steps before going towards Central 46. Yamamoto did not attempt to stop him. He had put the other captains at the entrance of the place to stop Naruto from getting in. He knew that those fools had called him, but in this state, it was best he not go there because he would kill them. Shutara, what happened? Yamamoto questioned the woman who was merely watching everything. Naruto's body and soul were torn apart yesterday before they were put back together. You must imagine how painful the process might have been. And how stressed his body must have been after the process. He had decided to sleep for a few days to allow his body to rest, and he gave me one instruction: don't wake me up. Whether Soul Society had been invaded by hollows, don't wake me up. Whether someone close to me is about to be killed, don't wake me up. Whether the end of the world has come, if I am sleeping, don't wake me up. Don't wake me up meant don't wake me up to Naruto. Yamamoto knew this. He shook his head silently. He had warned Soy Fan to stay away from the blonde, but she never listens. Will you take her to the 4th Division's barracks? Central 46. Why did you do that? She questioned, not sounding the least amused by what Naruto had done. Do what? Naruto asked. He had done a lot of things. She had to be precise on what he was questioning. Force one of your eyes to develop fully like that. Do you know the consequences of doing something like that? What are the after effects? Naruto questioned as he made his way towards Central 46. He could feel the strong Reiatsu of the captains waiting for him there. Yamamoto should also come here. Given his state, he could not afford to fight Unohana, Chishiro, Kyoraku, and the Sotecho at once. He would not win such a battle. His current power was enough to handle Yamamoto, not without the others. I told that the seal had weakened when you regressed to this state. Given that, I was able to allow a part of my consciousness into your inner world. The seal had yet to regain its full strength after that process, but when you slept, giving rest to your body, it regained its full power. And because of your mood, and forcing that power to be active when it's not ready, I am going to disappear in a matter of seconds. So it's true, nothing of you can exist outside of the seal while it is still active and at full power, Naruto stated, not sounding concerned with the development. But the blade can exist because it is no longer you, but something new made of you and I. She never replied to those words. His consciousness was already forced back into the seal. Naruto did not mind it though. It changed nothing. But at the same time it showed that the seal was truly powerful. That woman was truly a genius with seals. How long has it been within his body? How long has he been trying to break it? If she was alive it would have been a different story. He would have simply forced her to undo it. He had ways to make her do it. But she was dead and she was the only one who knew of the seal. She never kept notes about it. All he had been doing over the past years was studying it. But even though he had studied it, he had been unable to unlock it. Only a single key remained though. I am afraid we cannot allow you to go through, Naruto heard as he reached the gates of Central 46. Naruto looked at the captains. Perhaps he should fight them and relieve the fact that woman outsmarted him. He had been unable to break the seal she placed on him, on his very own soul. But she was below him in power, but she had done this to him. He had gone through much pain yesterday and his left eye was causing him severe pains because of the forced development. His other eyes were also affected because of this. He could feel that their development had been halted. This was going to slow things down. Who was going to pay for all these? Ah, there are still those Vasto Lord he had sealed in a safe place at Hueco Mundo. He had kept them there so he could devour them when he had become weak. But now he did not have the means to devour them. It was no matter, he could just go and destroy them. That should release some pent-up frustrations. He opened his eyes as it lit up slightly. He was sucked up in a vortex of blackness. He disappeared without a trace of him left. Naruto. Unohana questioned as she looked at the figure in front of her. He had been missing for over a year now, no one had been able to find him. But here he was standing in the middle of a water stream with black reiatsu leaking all over his body. He did not seem to be okay. She could feel that there was some hollow reiatsu. But that would wait for later. First, the blonde did not seem to be in a good condition. Naruto turned around to look at Unohana. His expression showed nothing. His eyes were half opened and his hair was a lot more messier than normally. There was a wound across his chest, it was a large one. His body was burned all over his front. His clothes were all but burned. And so were his hands. They seemed to have suffered the most. It was like he had used them to defend against a technique. He seemed like he had been hit by a powerful technique, a very powerful technique. Unohana was quick to rush at him. Of all the people, you had to find me, he seemed amused by this. His voice did not reflect his condition. Unohana had never seen him in this kind of condition before. No one had ever been able to make him look this way. Who could have done this? The wound on his chest was healing. It was impressive ability, she knew about it. But it seemed that whatever had hit him had done much damage to his body that he had been failing to heal as quick as he would heal normally. She did not know how fast his regenerative abilities were, she only knew that he had them. Could this be why he had been missing? What happened to you? I was in Hueco Mundo, Naruto answered as he looked at himself. His condition was pitiful. I had some business to deal with some Basto lords I had been gathering over the years, he said, surprising her. Nobody knew of his visits to the Hollow World, but that was it. Still, she was surprised that he had been gathering hollows. For what purpose? He could not have been gathering them for settling his dislike for the Soul King. He has made it known that he needs no army to fight. She could only guess that he had fought them. But even if it were Vasto lords, they could not have done this to him. How many were they? About 50, Naruto responded. It had taken him well over 750 years to find these rare species in Hueco Mundo. But he had gathered them. Did you fight them all at once? Fighting over 50 Vasto lords is well over the abilities of even a captain, Unohana said. Perhaps they could take about 10. But 50 was just too many of them. Especially given the fact that they were the most powerful of the hollows. Their speed was pretty superior too. But Naruto was Naruto. He was unique. She could not figure out how much power he had since she was never been able to measure it all. I had gathered them saying that I wanted to use them to a special purpose. My power alone was enough to make them listen to me, he merely used his power to make them obedient to him. But when I had gathered them all, they turned on me thinking that they could defeat me. What did you want with them? Hana questioned curiously. I wanted to take their power. And also use some of them as dummies to test the power I would have gained after absorbing some of them, Naruto responded, his grand plan making Hana shake her head at the cruelty. Even if they were hollows, that was just cruel. You can use hollow powers already. What more did you want? I wanted to see if there was a limit to the power of hollows I could absorb, Naruto responded before looking into the heavens. He should leave this place soon. He was not going to allow himself to be seen by other people in this condition. It would be damning to his pride. What happened when the Vasto Lords ganged up on you? I fought them and managed to absorb about 5. But the others kept getting in the way of my 6. It became irritating that I decided to wipe them all out. He paused for a moment. You know that my normal Sero is strong enough to deflect a Grand Ray Sero from a Vasto Lord. Hana nodded. I used a Sero more powerful than a Grand Ray Sero. It was very powerful, it could destroy half of Seraite in a flash. But one of the Vasto Lords had a certain ability. He paused as some expression akin to slight anger passed through his face. When I used my majestic Sero, I had used much power because I was really irritated and just wanted the hollows to disappear. This hollow took on my Sero and used his special ability to reflect my attack. Normally nothing like that would have worked. But the hollow all its power in ensuring that my attack was deflected. So at the cost of its life, it deflected my technique. It was the first time I had been surprised and caught off guard. So you got hit by your own attack. It seems that you are not immune to your own power. It is rather embarrassing, especially for you, that the first time you get wounded like this, it is because of your own technique, Hana stated, smiling. She found it amusing given how proud the blonde was. She then noticed something, the right leg of his pants was missing. Could it be that his leg had been torn off too? It seemed unlikely. But his wounds only reflected that Naruto's techniques were his own weakness, they did more damage to him denying any other technique. It appears so, Naruto responded. He would have to fix that soon. But he was not going to allow anyone to pull that trick again. It was a pity that the hollow had erased its existence after that. Otherwise, he would have made it suffer for a long thousand years without rest. What happened to the other hollows? Naruto shrugged in response. What are you doing here anyway? He questioned, looking at the woman. You are still a captain, Naruto. Shutara might have left, but you can't just disappear like this without telling anyone, Hana stated in a lecturing tone. My disappearance has nothing to do with Shutara, Naruto responded, shaking his head. The woman left. It was better that way. She would have stood in the way of his next movements. I have always done what I wanted. Central 46 is growing even more on edge with you. It is only out of fear that they do nothing. And there was been a word that the Soul King has forbidden them from doing anything. Noisy fools, who think they can control everything. He looked straight into Unohana's eyes. Yakiru, would you like to see hell? A few days later, Naruto was standing in the middle of a court inside Central 46 building. The men and women who ran the place were all staring at him with enough intent to kill. This was the second time he has been here, no, it was the third. And each time things had not gone well. His last time here had been bloody. Neither of the souls had been questioning were in this place, perhaps a few were there. They were useless and unimportant, he could not be blamed for not remembering them. He had recovered and returned to work, but upon doing that, another squad of Shinigami that operated in the shadows and under the direct control of Central 46 was on him. He could have refused, but since they had requested his presence nicely, it would be rude of him to refuse. Their stares only did nothing but to amuse him. They were little flies who could not touch him. He could squash them any time he wanted, without breaking a sweat. But he would allow the children to play. What are you laughing at? One had the boldness to question him loudly. It felt like a demand, but it made no difference, not to Naruto. How loud, Naruto responded enough for them to hear. You don't have to be so loud, I can hear you perfectly even if you whisper, he placed just to listen to the music of their loud curses. This is what amuses me, he answered the question he had been asked. Their curses and threats did nothing but amuse him. It was amusing to see them try to enforce their authority over him. They just could never understand that he was of higher authority that was beyond their reach. They had no real power, they just had voices to sprout out idle threats. Bastard. Children are so emotional and easily riled up. They can't control their emotions, how annoying. The amusing part of his statement was that he looked a lot younger than any of the souls within the chambers. The souls in the chambers looked old enough to be his parents. And yet, he was calling them children. Well, he was a lot older than he looked. But they did not know that. Watch what you say, boy. Another yelled. If you continue to test our patience, you will regret it. You may be strong, boy, but we have authority here. If this had not been sad, he would have been laughing as hard as he could. How pitiful, he paused for a moment as all hell broke loose in the chambers. Can you really make me regret anything? Yes, we can. They all chorused. Naruto brought his right hand and tapped it under his chin, looking thoughtful. Single quote. How you can manage that, I wonder, he then shrugged. This is no longer amusing, tell me what you want. There was some pregnant silence for a few moments. Where have you been? It was a demand. Why do you want to know? Naruto questioned with an even tone. You were away from Soul Society for a year, you did not even inform anyone of this leave. It was also not permitted. Since when have you given me permission to do something? They increased their glares because it was the hard truth. In fact, he had been playing captain and doing some mundane tasks just to give them an illusion that they had some degree of control over him. It does no matter. Let us know or they will be dire consequences. You are a captain of the Gote 13, thus under our control. We demand you answer us. Naruto looked surprised about something. I wonder what gave you the illusion that being a captain makes me under your control. Well, it does not matter anyway, he paused and folded his hands across his chest. I refuse to answer. Bastard. Saying what you want because you have the protection of the Soul King. We may not be allowed to harm you physically. But we. Naruto interrupted. Don't illusion yourselves, you cannot harm me even if you wanted, he paused for a moment. Go on with your little speech. Surely the Soul King was enjoying the show. There were some loud curses again. We can banish you from Soul Society and strip you of your rank as captain. The Soul King has not forbidden us to do that. Naruto was silent for a few moments. It seemed like he was thinking about something. The silence made the Central 46 members think that he was coming to his senses. But it was not anything like that, that won't do. When you have something meaningful to threaten me with, summon me, the blonde then turned away to leave. He was almost exiting when someone spoke. Perhaps we might have Shutara pay for your stubbornness, there was certainly malice in that tone. Naruto turned around to face the man who had spoken, his expression was blank, showing nothing. That is a good one, he said. I almost thought of kissing your cold wrinkled behinds, begging for forgiveness, the comment was clearly sarcastic. He then turned around to leave without another word. Your days are numbered, boy. Soon, he will convince the Soul King to let us do what we please. When and make no mistake we will convince him, you will pay for all that you have done. Enjoy your freedom while it lasts. We might even get rid of Unohana. Naruto did not bother to respond, he disappeared without another word. A week later. The fools of Central 46 were pushing their luck. They were close to succeeding in getting the Soul King to stop protecting him. They had been making their case, saying that if he was allowed to continue doing as he pleased, it would set a bad example to the other captains and Shinigami. That may have been true to some point. But those fools never allowed anyone to get out of their leash. If someone that was not him, they would quickly put him down to set an example. They showed no mercy to the others. He was the only special case they were unable to solve. It was mainly due to the Soul King's intervention. Nevertheless, even if the Soul King had not done anything, they could not have harmed him, unless he allowed them to. The case they were presenting was a good one. Of course, he kept tabs on everything that went around in Soul Society. It was for his benefit to do so. It was possible that in a few months the Soul King would finally give in. When that happened, he would have to fight the whole of Soul Society. It would not be a good thing to happen. They could not kill him, but it would end with him presumed dead. Well, it did not matter anyway, he was done with all his preparations. The last stop to Hueco Mundo had seen the last preparations to his plans. So, it was no longer useful for him to play captain. He stopped his trail of thoughts when he sensed two people coming his way. The blonde narrowed his eyes at his right, Shunsui and Yukitake. They would certainly try to probe information, not that they would get it. You have certainly caused a stir in Central 46 after your last visit, Shunsui said in his ever flamboyant tone. No one has ever been allowed to get in or out, not even Yamajiji. Even the atmosphere was become tense around here, Yukitake added. I feel that something is going to happen soon, he stated. Clearly, the current situation in Soul Society was troubling him. He enjoyed the sense of peace, but with all that was going around here, he could not. They must be deciding a way to get rid of me, Naruto said. He knew that they were making such plans even before the Soul King gave them the green light. But he did not care. He was also not going to show these two that he was aware of what was going on inside there, it was above their pay grade. Would you blame them after everything? Yukitake asked, clearly not surprised that they would plan for something like that. They had been quick to get rid of all the Shinigami who caused trouble. Even if he and Shunsui were to turn bad, they would not waste time in having them terminated at the execution grounds. It seemed that it was their holy ground. And Yamamoto would not object, as long as it was clear that they had done wrong and Central 46 had given the order. I guess they can't be blamed, Naruto said with a shrug of his shoulders. It was obvious that the fact that they were plotting to get rid of him did nothing to trouble him. But they must know that they can't control everything. Both Shunsui and Yukitake decided not to comment on that. Control, that was one subject you could never win with Naruto. It was best to leave it altogether. With everything going around, I thought they might have sent the Black Orbs to shadow you everywhere you go. Yes, those would do better in keeping an eye on you. Central 46 seems to trust them explicitly, Shunsui added after Yukitake. They had sent them, Naruto started calmly. But I killed them after an hour because it was irritating having been watched. I assured them I would kill the next if they sent them again, he explained with no sense of guilt or remorse over his actions. You could have just knocked them out instead of killing them, Yukitake stated. To him that would have been the better cause of action. It was needless to kill souls who were merely doing their job. But Naruto seemed not to mind about it. Shunsui whistled. Oh, so that is why Yamajiji has been in a bad mood over the past days. He must have been informed about it. Central 46 also puts a lot of pressure of him to get you under control. He is your superior and the one who trained you personally. They would put the blame on him for failing to get you under control. He was also the one who recruited you, Central 46 would say it was his fault that they had to deal with such a person. Having being the one who recruited him and trained him, his actions had to be his responsibilities. It was also hard on Yamamoto because even when they were still at the academy, Naruto was still beyond his control, although slightly. But Yamamoto did not see it since he was more interested in Naruto's power. They could see it clearly that the blonde had no master. He must be really infuriated then, Naruto said, less interested in Yamamoto's anger. He then looked at his left. You are joining this little party too? He questioned as Unohana appeared before the three who had been walking at a leisurely pace towards the quarters of Squad 1. Unohana shook her head. She smiled at the other two, Yukitake, Kiraku. She greeted the two with a small smile. The two smiled back at her before she spoke again. Can I speak with Uchiha Taicho alone? It was certainly not a request despite the format of the words being a question asked politely. Shunsui and Yukitake were quick to get that and so they nodded. Naruto, we will see at Yamajiji's. It was obvious that he had been going there. So they would go ahead of him as he would be busy with Unohana. After they two had disappeared, Naruto looked at Unohana. What is it? Can we speak in private? That did not sound like a request either. Naruto merely raised a curious eyebrow at this. She really did scare much people with this sort of thing. But he was everyone. I told you. Naruto Taicho, can we speak in private? Unohana repeated her words again, still giving Naruto the same kind smile. Fine, Naruto said with a sigh. That smile really annoys me, he stated as he and Unohana went away to a more private place. Squad 5 Barracks, Underground Lab. This was his secret place. If Unohana wanted something private, she could have all the privacy she needed here. The woman looked at him. How long have I known you? Quite some time, before I even met Yamamoto. What brings this question? Ever since then, you have told me and shown me things that nobody else knows. I am the only person you trust completely, and the only person you know will never betray you. Naruto narrowed his left eye at the woman. Central 46 contacted you, he said. They had said they would get her. But they could not. Yamamoto would never allow it. He had even go as far as to try to hide her past from them. Unohana nodded. I have not been questioned yet. But they said they would question me soon. I think they did it on purpose knowing that I would tell you this, she stated. They want to you how I will react. You are a faithful woman to Soul Society, they believe that you will tell them everything, Naruto said, sounding a bit amused by this. You don't think I will? Naruto shook his head as he smiled. You, Yakiru, belong to me. He paused for a moment. You are here because you know they won't allow you to leave without any valuable information about me. They won't even hesitate to torture you for that information. And if I found out that they tortured you, I would cause another massacre and then some. Wouldn't you do that? She was certain, without a shred of doubt, that he would do exactly just that. If something like that were to happen, many innocents would be caught in the crossfire and killed. Naruto would not even care about it. He would not care about turning Saraite upside down just to kill everyone who had been involved or trying to stop him. I would, Naruto responded. Have no fears, I don't plan on destroying your precious Saraite. Tell them that I had gone to Hueco Mundo, you don't know why because I never explained it to you. But you know that it had something to do with Vasto Lords. If I tell them something like that they will surely think you are planning to attack Soul Society. Vasto Lords are the strongest beings in Hueco Mundo. Ordinary Shinigami cannot deal with them. This would not be hard to make up because of the fact that you can use hollow techniques. But I don't think they know this, Unohana explained. She looked at Naruto carefully. But that is what you want, isn't? But they don't know that I can use hollow abilities, Naruto stated. But if they think that, they will panic and start to make hushed decisions. They will probably have Yamamoto deal with me. He paused for a moment as he smiled. It would be amusing to see them plot how to get rid of me. Unohana sighed. I cannot do that. Huh. Naruto was actually surprised by those words. He did not think that she would say anything like that. But then again, this concerned Soul Society, he had to have expected that. I will not say anything that will worsen the current situation. We already have some problems with the Quincy's. We don't need more problems, Hana stated with a slightly serious tone, yet keeping her usual smile. Quincy's. Naruto seemed to think for a moment. I did not think that such beings could trouble the mighty Soul Society, that sounded rather sarcastic. Perhaps it was because that he always held little regard for the Quincy's. Perhaps he was merely mocking the Soul Society. Despite what you think, they are a lot more trouble than you think, Hana stated. Naruto shrugged. I trust you will say things that are good your well-being. And if I don't, well there certainly will be hell to pay. Is that a threat, Naruto Taicho? He looked amused by the thought of threatening Hana. When have I ever threatened your well-being, Yakiru? She did not respond. If you tell them anything that is the whole truth, I will kill them all, he was referring to Central 46. Now if you will excuse me, I have a date with Yamamoto. What business do you have with him? It is unlike you to set up a date with him. Naruto merely gave Hana a blank look before walking away from her. The woman shook her head as she also proceeded to leave the lab. She was not due to meet Central 46 now, she had a few hours before that. Squad 1 Barracks. Ho! The ever-sleeping eyes of the cold and heartless commander have awakened to gaze on the unruly youngster that is Uchiha Naruto. It was not that he was also not cold and heartless. He just liked seeing Yamamoto become infuriated. It took some time but eventually, the strong defenses would crumble and the commander would lose it. Come on, Naruto, Shunsui said before Yamamoto replied. Yama-Jige has been having a bad day. It is best not to infuriate him, it won't be good for anyone's health. Unfortunately for Shunsui, both Naruto and Yamamoto ignored him. Where have you been? I was in my house yesterday. You know that is not what I am asking. Naruto seemed to think for a moment before replying. That is not your concern. Yamamoto narrowed his eyes dangerously at Naruto. I have allowed your insubordination to go unpunished for too long. I have allowed you to act as a spoiled child without a beating for too long. I thought I could manage you, but it seems that I will have to use force to beat some manners into that thick head of yours. Manners. Do you even understand the concept? But most importantly, can you even beat them into me? Naruto questioned, folding his hands across his chest. He did not look concerned with Yamamoto's words. I will admit that you are stronger than these two, Yamamoto responded, referring to Shunsui and Yukitake. But you must know that these two aren't the only ones who are strong teammates, and they have not even come close to becoming captains. Have you forgotten that some of your fellow captains are stronger than you? Do you even think you can beat me when you failed to beat the 6th and 10th squad captains after they had teamed up together? The other captains are not a problem, but I will admit that they are strong. You are wrong about something though, I have beaten those two in a 2-against-1 fight. That day, I was simply too bored to fight them seriously. He paused for a moment. Do you even know the true extent of my strength to assume that I cannot have you on your knees? True extent. Yamamoto seemed to snort at this. I have seen all your abilities, boy. You are a child who needs to be taught how to control power effectively. Over the past years, I have collected information on every Shinigami to see the extent of their powers, but there is no power that scares me, not even the powers of your hidden Bankai. He drew out his Haori and threw it towards Yamamoto. It is no longer useful to me. Are you quitting the Gote 13? Shunsui and Yukitake were very surprised to hear about this. They had not even come close to becoming captains. Naruto was their friend, he had to be there when they finally reached his level. The only reason they were even able to be here was because Yamamoto was their sensei and it was not an official meeting. Naruto did not deny it. Yes, I no longer see the point of working for beings who do not know what justice is, and the Gote 13 has outlived its usefulness to me. Foolish child. Yamamoto said in a slight loud tone. You are senile, Naruto responded, shaking his head. Do you think you can just walk away like that after all you have done? Do you think you can run away from defiling Soul Society's justice? Do you think you have the power to simple walk away when it pleases you? Genryusai Sensei is right, Naruto, you cannot run away because things have turned out bad for you, Yukitake spoke for the first time. You are wrong, Yukitake, I am not running away. I am simply leaving this play because it longer benefits me. The Gote 13 has no real purpose other than to pick up fights with hollows. There is no justice here. Genryusai, you have no sense of justice. What is justice to you is what Central 46 says is justice. Naruto paused, shaking his head in disappointment. A powerful being like you turned into nothing but a humble slave of Central of Soul Society, how sad. You don't know the meaning of justice. All you have ever done is cause trouble for us and be an unruly child with lack of respect to his elders. But I will not tolerate this any further. You will be punished for your misbehavior. After I have punished you, I will make sure you apologize to Central 46 and tell them everything they want to know. There was some silence after Yamamoto had spoke. Did I hear you correctly? The glare he received from the Sotecho gave him the answer he needed. Not that he had not heard the man correctly in the first place. Yamamoto, I can leave this nonsense called the Gote 13 anytime I want and there would be nothing you or anyone can do about it. There is no justice in Soul Society. But you cannot see it. What more can a powerful, cold and heartless man see when he is being controlled by weak-minded fools who you can kill without even drawing out your sword? Those fools, more precisely, that fool you call the Soul King is nothing but useless. He has no use in this world, all he does is sleep and delicate weak-minded fools who have no sense of justice to rule for him. Your laws are pathetic, unjust, you are pathetic, and nothing more than a humble servant wife to Soul Society. You do not understand the laws of Soul Society. You have never even tried to understand them. I don't see anyone complaining about them other than you. Orders are also orders, they have to be followed no matter what, that is being loyal to the Soul Society. But you are not loyal, you cannot understand what it means to follow orders. That is the problem with you, Yamamoto, you cannot think anything outside of following orders. Orders this, orders that, Soul Society this that. Your will to follow orders, regardless of how unjust they are, is applaudable but at the same time, sad, Naruto stated, keeping his calm neutral, while it was obvious that Yamamoto was only trying to be calm. But if Naruto continued to speak, the Captain Commander would surely lose it soon. I am the Captain Commander of the Gote 13, thus I must lead by example. I must always adhere to Soul Society's laws. I expect everyone below me to do the same. Below you. What gave you the idea that I was below you? You think because you are the Captain Commander, you are above me. Do not fool yourself, Shinakuni. No one is above me, not you, not even that thing. He shook his head siltly before taking hold of the blade held on a sash at his waist. Do you plan to draw out a fight here? You are not even using your real blade. Naruto shook his head again. I wish not for that, he said. This blade no longer has a purpose, just as the Gote 13 has lost its usefulness to him. The blade in his right hand shattered into thousands of pieces. The pieces then seemed to play around him for a moment before they disappeared. Now where was I? He seemed to think for a few moments. None of the occupants in the room felt like opening their mouths to remind the blonde of where he had been before going off track. Luckily, Naruto remembered very well. You make me sad, Yamamoto, sad for all the strong Shinigamis who have been left to be nothing but humble slaves of Soul Society. But at the same time, I dislike you for it. It is not that you don't have the power to stand firm on your belief, no, you don't even have a belief. All you believe in is Soul Society and its laws. You cannot think anything aside from that. Your thinking is restricted to the laws of Soul Society. You humbly make them part of your being. This has robbed you of your ability to think anything higher or even dream big. It is quite pathetic that a man like you can be so easily controlled by those fools. Your love, no, it is no longer love, but an obsession with the laws makes me want to kill you each time you preach them. Your mind is filled with laws of your master. Naruto's words did not make Yamamoto happy. Added to the fact that he had not even been happy when the blonde arrived, the sight of the Sotecho was becoming somewhat scary. He was releasing his Reiatsu higher and higher at every word coming off Naruto's mouth. It was either Naruto was oblivious to it or was just ignoring it as nothing. But Shunsui and Yukatake could feel it, hence they had taken a step away from their sensei. Shinakuni, you are a woman, a wife to Soul Society. A wife does anything the husband instructs her to do, as long as it pleases him. But you have propelled that into a new degree. Your obsession in making your husband happy sickens me. If your husband tells you to open your legs wide, and brings a friend by for a threesome, you simply smile and take pride in it, as long as it makes my husband happy. If your husband tells you to prostitute yourself because he is in debt, or even sells you to slavery, you will run along happy, as long as it pleases my husband. You are a whore to Soul Society, he uses as he pleases. But you refuse any other man other than those that come from Central 46. Do not expect me to prostitute myself to them because you do the same. By that time, flames had already engulfed Yamamoto. But Naruto had disappeared, never to been seen again for years. Somewhere in Soul Society. If I did not know any better, I would think that you ran away because Yamamoto was angry with you, Amaterasu stated as Naruto had held her in front of him. He was using her to draw some lines in the air using his Reiatsu. If I had not gotten away at that time, I would have been forced to play with Yamamoto, but I don't feel like playing, Naruto responded as a small box appeared around the space he had drawn the lines. He then placed his right hand on the box. He pushed it backwards, before a door frame appeared. There was nothing but pure darkness behind the door. But Naruto just stood there as if he was waiting for something. I am waiting for the day you do fight that man though. He is very proud of his power, I would be pleased to see you cripple his pride. That would certainly be something to watch, he seemed to think about it for a moment. But it can wait. I have far more pressing issues to deal with. Ah, this portal, Amaterasu paused for a moment. This one is different from the one you used last time, she noted. I have to change the portal after every 100 years. This dimension usually changes its atmosphere and shape every 110 years. What are we going to do now? For now we will keep inside here for at least 140 years. I have left a clone behind to keep my appearances for 40 years. This clone will make the Soul Society aware of certain things about me while I am locked in there trying to break the limiters. What do you want them to discover? Naruto only smiled. You will know soon, he replied. Amaterasu sighed but did not press on it. Do you think you will be able to break them this time? Last time we failed even after all the preparations. We will succeed. I have consumed enough power and my body has adjusted well over the past years. I have to break them, if I can't then we will have to think of another plan, Naruto responded as some stars seemed to appear in the background of the door he had opened. Finally, he muttered before walking inside. As soon as he walked in, the door disappeared. Present time. Ah, how nice of you to finally attend a captain's meeting, Shunsui stated as he watched a very emotionless Naruto walking towards the meeting place in Squad 1 barracks. He still had his eyes closed. The rest of the captains had already been present in the meeting, including Urahara. Yamamoto had called everyone after the recent events due to Naruto's actions. But he had not called the meeting to discuss the blonde. There were far more pressing matters to deal with than that, Aizen and his alliance with Hueco Mundo. Naruto did not respond immediately. He simply walked into the line at which Unohana was standing. The captains stood in two lines facing each other, with Yamamoto the exception. Despite all of them being captains, they could still feel that he carried some oppressive atmosphere around him. It did nothing to make anyone feel better, except for a few who knew Naruto was capable of releasing much more oppressive atmosphere. I had nothing better to do, he finally responded, not looking at anyone in particular. So you only came because you were bored, Soy Fan said with a snort while still glaring at the blonde. She was beyond furious after what he had done to her. But now she knew that charging at him blindly would only cause her unimaginable pain. After what she experienced last time, she was not keen on doing it again. You should not have bothered to even come here. I don't even see the need of your presence since you do nothing but cause trouble, but it did not stop her from speaking her thoughts. Fortunately, Naruto gave no response. He felt it was pointless answering to a mere child. Of course the silent treatment did not dwell well with Soy Fan. Bastard, are you just going to ignore me? Naruto looked at her and opened his eyes, while carrying a slightly bored look on his face. All his eyes had fully developed to their mature form. He released some of his Raitsu to shut her up. You are annoying. If you continue being this way, I will start counting the number of your days. Before Soy Fan could retort, an even heavier spiritual pressure hit around the room. Naruto stopped releasing his with a bored sigh. Yamamoto hit the ground with his staff. Enough. There was complete silence. Naruto, I will not have you threatening my subordinates, the captain commander warned seriously. Threaten a child? That was questioned in a slight bored tone while keeping its blank tone. You know I don't do such things. Yamamoto felt weak to respond to this, and so, he looked at everyone. We will begin this meeting. He stated. Urahara has some information to share with us. The said man smiled slightly as he stepped forward a little. Over the past month, there has been a few hollows who have entered the human world. These hollows are not normal by any means, they are stronger than others. They also carry Zepankudos like we Shinigami. But so far with what I have seen, they are nothing much of a trouble. Despite him saying that they were weak, one could not just shake off the thought that hollows now wielded Zepankudos. It was nothing has ever happened before. The Zepankudo was a thing for Shinigami, not hollows. For hollows to possess them also was near impossible and unbelievable. It was not a good news to take. Hollows were entering their domain, this was unacceptable. While I do hate to agree with this man, Mayuri stated, sending a glare at Urahara who merely smiled in turn. He is right about this. Hollows seem to be evolving. It is not natural, we believe it is caused by the Hogyuku. Aizen must have already awakened it already. But the hollows so far have not been strong, but interesting species to experiment on. Nevertheless, he grinned as he said those words. But we are not actually positive if Aizen has awakened the Hogyuku fully. We just came up with a theory, but it might have been already awakened if he can use it, Urahara added after Mayuri had spoken. I thought it would take some time for the Hogyuku to be awakened, making it usable, Toshiro Hitsugaya stated with a bit of a worried look on his face. They had been told that the thing would take some more time to be more operational. But it was already working before that projected or thought time. The news was a bit unsettling. Considering that we are dealing with Aizen, we should have expected something like this, Byakuya stated looking stoic as always. But this is unexpected, Yukitake stated. I had thought we would have some time to prepare things over. What we only know now is that Aizen plans to create a key to the Soul King's dimension. He has said that he wanted to sit in heaven, so that would mean he wants to kill the Soul King. He eyed Naruto as he spoke the last words. The blonde simply raised a brow at this. He never bothered to look into what Aizen had been doing. But he knew the man turned rogue and betrayed Soul Society. Even when he went to Hueco Mundo, he never did look into it. So the rogue captain was planning to kill the Soul King in order to take his seat. It seems that I have a challenger for heaven, don't you think, Amaterasu? He questioned, knowing that she would hear him. That you have, the woman acknowledged. It makes things a bit interesting, hey. Perhaps you should really decide to visit that man and see if he can actually succeed in killing that thing. Naruto shrugged. I highly doubt anyone can do that. But anything is possible. This is indeed troubling, Yamamoto stated in a tired tone. We also have to deal with the fact that these hollows are now using Zanpakutos. It does not really matter if the Hogyuku has been awakened or not, what matters is if it was usable. I had thought that we would deal with this before any of these. I don't see what the problem is if the hollows are weak, Zaraki said nonchalantly. He certainly saw no problem if the hollows could be dealt with in the human world without them even being called out to help. While the hollows are nowhere near captain class, we all have come to know that Aizen has the whole of Hueco Mundo under his control. This means that he has many hollows under his command. It is also within reason to say that these hollows are merely experiments, Urahara added to throw off the fact that the hollows were weak. It would not be good if they were to underestimate them. I have also made a discovery, Mayuri stated with a wide grin. The hollows we have seen so far were low-level hollows. In due time we believe that we will be able to see more powerful hollows as Aizen turns to use more powerful hollows. As this man has stated, it is possible that these hollows were merely experiments. After Aizen has finished with his experiments, he could move on to stronger hollows. This would mean that the hollows we will fight in the future will be far stronger. Urahara nodded. It would be reasonable to assume that what we have seen so far is not the real power of the Hogyuku. Is there anything more you would like to add? Yamamoto questioned looking at Mayuri and Urahara. The two shook their heads no. The Sotecho sighed and stroked his beard. We will have to keep watch then. Do we have means to enter into Hueco Mundo? We are still working on it. Toshiro recalled something. Can't he enter Hueco Mundo anytime he wants? Haven't we been told that he can use hollow techniques? He questioned looking at Naruto. Yamamoto nodded. That is true, he said. But I wanted our own device that we could operate anytime we want. The unspoken message was clear, it was not every time that Naruto would be available to open the Garaganta. It was not even given that he would even open it if it did not interest him. Yamamoto did not want to depend on him. He wanted to depend on his own devices rather than a man who could turn him down in a moment of emergency. Although the blonde was quick to understand what the Sotecho was saying, he did not comment. Toshiro nodded in understanding, but that does not mean that we cannot use that service while our scientists build a device for us. Service? Naruto questioned, speaking for the first time since the meeting officially begun. Toshiro responded before anyone could. I mean it will be of helpful to us if we used your ability while Urahara-san and Mayuri Taicho work on a device to help us enter Hueco Mundo whenever we want. We cannot afford to use your ability given the recent developments. We have to go there and investigate. It will do us no good to sit here and wait for Aizen to send his hollows to us. There was some silence for a moment. Naruto smiled slightly. What a wonderful child, don't you think so, Retsu? He is, Unohana replied with a calm tone. I will visit Hueco Mundo, Naruto stated making Toshiro smile. When will that be? Yamamoto questioned with narrowed eyes. Soon, perhaps within a week, Naruto responded without even looking at the old Shinigami questioning him. You will have to take someone with you to investigate, Yamamoto stated. He was not making a request, but simply telling Naruto what he had to do. He did not want the blonde to go alone, there was no assurance that he would tell them everything. He could keep some things from them just to make things interesting. No, I will go alone, Naruto responded in an even tone. I had planned on going there soon to check Aizen anyway. And things might get a little playful, I have been itching to destroy something. Can I have your word that you will tell me everything I need to know? Yes, Naruto responded without missing a single heartbeat. Yamamoto pondered the words for some time before he finally nodded. Good, he said. Naruto disappeared after Yamamoto had responded. The meeting was not over, but his was. Are you sure it is a good thing to allow him to go Aizen alone? He might plan something with the traitor, Soi Fan questioned. She could never trust Naruto with something like this, no, she could not trust him with anything. Have you already forgotten what the Soteicho told you about him, Soi Fan Taicho? Hana questioned in her usual kind and calm tone. Shunsui nodded to something. Aizen and Naruto have the same objective, he had no doubt that Naruto wanted to still make his dream come true. Each of them wants heaven. Naruto tried it and succeeded. Do you think that he would simply allow himself to work under Aizen? He cannot work under anyone. Do you think that Aizen will want to share heaven with Naruto? Do you even think that both will want to share? Hana then remembered when Naruto asked if she wanted to see the real heaven. She was positive that Aizen did not know of this heaven that Naruto spoke of. Then Blonde had said it himself that only two beings knew of it. The other was dead and the other being him. Shunsui was indeed correct, Naruto would not want anyone close to his throne. But it was most likely that he would watch Aizen play. If Naruto saw the traitorous captain as a threat to his seat, he would have already worked something out. And she would have been told about it. Yamamoto decided to explain what Shunsui was saying since Soi Fan did not seem to understand his questions. Neither of them can work with each other. Naruto sees himself as superior to anyone with no equal, as do Aizen, I believe. Neither of them would want to be under the other. Both are smart enough to make it appear that way, but if something like that were to happen, they would end up killing each other. Or Naruto would most likely kill Aizen, and then we will only have Naruto to deal with. Urahara whistled at this. This was surprising. He wondered what Naruto would do if he heard such words from the Soteicho. Yukatake spoke next, don't worry about anything, he said to Urahara. That man knows this as well. Naruto is smart enough to have deduced something like this. And if he had a problem with it, he would have said something about it before leaving. But the fact that he left without saying any word means he does not care. Is he always likely to figure out things like this? Tushiro questioned curiously. Yes, Shunsui responded. Mayuri hummed. This makes plotting to kill him difficult, the others gave him blank looks. What? Naruto looked down from the sky where he stood, the human world had much less interesting things to do and see. It was also problematic since he could not move freely around the place. He did not use the normal gate of coming into this world. Using his own teleportation technique ensured that he was not questioned by the annoying Soul Society. He disliked being questioned about some things. It would surely be irritating to be questioned about his whereabouts each time he went for a walk. Central 46 was an annoying bunch who always liked to have control over everything that happened in the Soul Society and his own actions. They had not been doing a good job so far in keeping tabs on him, though. The reason for their failure was because he could get away anytime he wanted. The covert orcs were pretty fast and quite persistent, but they could not keep him on a tight leash. He was not a child. Because he used his own device to teleport here, it meant that there was no limiter that was placed on him as soon as he came. Any Shinigami or the spiritually aware could sense his presence at the moment. Because his Reitsu was unfamiliar, and had a hollow feeling in it, they would surely be right about him any moment. But it did not matter anyway, it was not like they could do anything to him. Now he cared less for what would happen to the humans because of his spiritual pressure. But given his current state of power, nothing chaotic would happen. The spiritually aware would just be quick to rush at him to see who it was since they were not familiar with his Reiatsu. It was going to be bothersome, soon, he would have to be quieting down children if he did not leave soon. He looked behind him at the corner of his eyes as he sensed someone coming behind him. Something like an arrow came rushing at him, he could see it clearly with his eyes, but it was fast. Nevertheless, not fast enough to render him optionless. His interests were piqued when he realized that it was a Quincy technique. There was no mistake about it, his eyes could tell him that much. Even though he could have dodged, he did nothing. He merely looked at the projectile as it neared him. The technique then hit him. Surprisingly, it pierced him from behind. But it did not do any damage. But he raised an eyebrow at the fact that it had managed to pierce him. The user must be some strong man to do that to him. It did not take long for his power to make everything go away and make it look like he was never pierced to begin with. He then turned around and looked at the person who had attacked him. He saw a man wearing white clothing and another in a Shinigami uniform. Both were strong beings, he could tell that much just by looking at them. He looked at the man in the Shinigami uniform. He did not recognize him from anywhere, nor has he sensed the Reitsu from anywhere before. This man must have been living in the human world. There is no way someone strong as that man could have existed in Soul Society without him knowing about it ever since he was released. He was not given much time to think anything more as a wave of arrows came rushing towards him. They were just as fast as the previous arrow that had pierced him. But the fact that they were a heap of them made it a little difficult to dodge them all, but it was not impossible. He was not going to allow another arrow to pierce him again. Well, he could use some warm-up at this time. He disappeared from his position. The wave of arrows missed him. No, he dodged them all using his superior speed. He then appeared a distance away from his last position, but when he appeared there, more arrows came rushing towards him. It seemed that they were moving faster than before. He did not move a bit as the arrows threatened to tear his body apart. When they were about to hit him, they disappeared inside a black swirling void, surprising the attacker. Even when he was surprised, he did not stop attacking. But this time, he went to the extreme. He flashed to different positions around him while firing more arrows at him. The arrows came in a heap in all directions. Naruto stood still looking immobile, but that was not the case. The arrows then hit him dead on, causing an explosion to occur. The explosion caused some clouds of smoke to appear. When the clouds from the explosion cleared, Naruto was standing still, unhurt, with his arms folded across his chest. That would have been dangerous, he said to himself, if I was anyone. But he trailed off when his eyes picked up something. The Shinigami appeared in the right in front of him. The man had a calm look on his face for a moment. Naruto was surprised when he did not have his blade on his hand. Things such as Kido did not work on him. He wondered what the man would do. Again, he was surprised when the man merely flicked a finger from his right hand. It was Naruto's response before an invincible force hit him straight on. The force was somewhat powerful and managed to send him flying backwards in some fast speeds. The blonde was able to recover quickly though, he flipped several times in midair before standing still. You should not come here and stand still like you own this world. Your presence is making a disruption within this world. You might end up hurt, the male Quincy stated coldly in an emotionless tone. This only amused Naruto. I have always said that Quincy were the weakest beings and I still maintain that, he stated. Do you wish to test that? The Quincy questioned with narrowed eyes as he prepared his bow. The Shinigami merely stood still watching with a calm look on his face. It did not seem like he was going to intervene with the two. Shoot, Naruto stated while his hands were still folded across his chest. The Quincy then fired hundreds of arrows at him in such a close range that made it nearly impossible to dodge. He did so while moving around him. Naruto did not move a single muscle. He merely stood still while the arrows pierced his body in all areas. After a minute when his body was all but arrows, the Quincy stopped. He was shocked when he looked at Naruto clearly. His arrows were inside Naruto's flesh but they had not pierced through the flesh. It seemed like they had just went through it. The arrows then dissolved, and there was no wound on Naruto's body, not even a scratch. Despite his shock, the Quincy did not show it. I will repeat this again, I have always said that Quinquis were the weakest of the supernatural beings, Naruto stated calmly. I have always said that because a Quincy cannot hurt me. Your techniques merely tingle me. Despite how strong the Quincy is, no one has ever been able to wound me. But then again, there are some abnormal beings that exist, everything is possible. However, you can do nothing. Ryukin glared at Naruto trying to contemplate what he had been told. This just could not be true. No one could be immune to Quincy attacks. He had no doubt that not even the captain commander could willingly take his techniques head-on without flinching. So just what was this guy? How was it possible? He had just disregarded all his power as nothing. He was powerful enough to be captain level, and yet some arrogant Shinigami was telling him that all his technique merely tingled him. If more than anything, his Quincy pride was insulted and knocked down a few levels. Why did you dodge after the first arrow hit you? The Quincy asked curiously, probing for information. He could not just let this go without getting some information. He had an enemy that was telling him that he could not harm after all. I wanted to waste some time before Urahara returned. And so I amused you, Naruto responded calmly. You are so used to lying that you are no longer conscious of it, Amaterasu noted as she viewed everything taking place. She had been watching ever since Naruto left Soul Society after the captain's meeting. But she had decided not to say anything. She knew though, that Naruto was aware of her presence, but he had just decided to keep quiet. He seemed confused as to what she was saying, but that was not it. No Quincy has ever been able to wound you. You know that is a lie. You have just made sure to kill every one of them who did and witnessed it. The Quincy may be truly weak in your standards, but their techniques were your weakness. They could actually hurt more than anything. That is why you hated them and refused to take part in the Quincy War. If you fought them, everyone would know your weakness. Nevertheless, in your Bankai state, they could not harm you. However, the great Uchiha Naruto could not bring himself to use his Bankai for weaklings, who could kill him despite being weak. Aren't they even the reason you are the fastest being alive? Naruto merely shrugged. That is not all. You were actually surprised when that arrow pierced you because you had developed a technique that would make you immune to Quincy techniques. Your dodging had nothing to do with Urahara, Amaterasu stated calmly. You just spoiled everything, Amaterasu. Now my interest in talking to these two has waned, Naruto stated, not bothered by the fact that he had been caught lying. He looked at the two in front of him and realized that they were saying something to him. But, he was not interested in finding out though, and so he turned around to go to Urahara's. Ishin ignored the silent curses Ryukin was giving towards Naruto. You are Captain Uchiha Naruto, correct? He already knew the answer, but he just wanted to be polite. Naruto did not look back at the man, but he did stop walking away. You are a former captain, correct? He responded with a question of his own. But that did not deter Ishin. So you are, he said, ignoring the blonde's question. He had a rather uncharacteristic serious expression on his face. My friend and I just wanted to see if the rumors were true, that is why we attacked you. Well, it was Ryukin who wanted to confirm everything when they sensed strong spiritual pressure and realized it was him. He had been reluctant but finally gave in. Your assessment was worthwhile, I believe, Naruto stated while still not looking back at Ishin or Ryukin. He was still cursing Naruto for his attitude. Ishin nodded. Yes, it was. He paused for a moment. What business do you have with Urahara? The former 12th Division captain had not been willing to share with him what the blonde wanted when he visited him. He thought that if he asked nicely, he would be told the answer. You have the answer, Urahara, he stressed the name Urahara. He did not wait to see if Ishin got what he was saying, he merely disappeared from the two. So in other words, it has nothing to do with me but Urahara, Ishin muttered silently. You think we should have pushed him further to make him use his Zanpakuto? Ryukin asked. If they had done that, he would have seen more of the man's abilities. But still he had found out much more. The fact that the man was immune to his powers did not please him at all. He would have to speak to Urahara about it and see if he cannot do anything about it. He could not allow such a thing to continue to be a reality. We got more than enough, Ishin responded calmly. But should you not be more worried about the fact that your Technonus can't hurt him? Ryukin frowned slightly. Don't remind me of that, he stated. Did you notice that he seemed younger than what Urahara had said? Ishin asked, looking at his friend. Yes, he was. I guess Urahara will tell us more about it when he returns from the Soul Society, Ryukin stated as they started to retreat to Urahara's shop where no doubt Naruto had gone to. Still, I did not think he could be this strong, Ishin stated. Urahara has said that he was neither a friend nor an ally despite being a member of the Gote 13. And your ineffectiveness means that it will be a little troublesome finding a way to deal with him should he become an enemy. Are you going to keep reminding me that my power has no effect on him? Ryukin questioned in a calm tone while glaring at the former Gote 13 captain. It was possible that Ishin was repeating the fact that his power could not harm Naruto on purpose just to see how he would react. Or he might just be gloating about the fact he was useless while he was not. Ishin merely smiled and patted Ryukin on his shoulder. No, it is just that the matter is not favorable to us. It must also be hard for you given your natural hate to Shinigami. The fact that there is one who is powerful and your power does nothing but tingle him must have knocked your Quincy pride down. But don't be hard on yourself, I am sure Urahara will help you if you ask him nicely. Urahara's shop. For the past 3 to 4 hours, Naruto has been standing motionless in midair within the underground training ground under Urahara's shop. He had not moved a single muscle ever since coming into the place. One could think that he was a statue given that he had been motionless for hours. There was also the thought that he was fast asleep given that his eyes were closed. But you could never know since he did not make sounds that most made when they were asleep. It was as if he had shut down all systems within his body. Yoruichi had watched him with surprise. He had showed up at the shop but did not say many words. He only said he would wait for Urahara since he had not returned from Soul Society. She was surprised also to see the blonde here given that her friend had gone to the spirit world for the Capitane's meeting, so she figured that he would be there also. She did not know that Naruto had left early as there was nothing more that interested him. His new appearance was another thing to note, but she did not ask anything. She merely showed him the way here without many words. But if the meeting was over, it must mean that Urahara was doing something in the spirit world. It was also apparent to her that Naruto was aware of the fact that Urahara was not present. Ishin and Ryukin had come to the place but they went back upstairs when they saw that he was not doing anything. Ryukin also did not seem to be happy seeing the man. In fact, he seemed even tempted to attack him while he was sleeping. She did not understand what had happened, but she could guess they had confronted him upon sensing him. She had also sensed him when he appeared, but chose not to go there and look after the shop when she realized that someone was taking care of it. Of course at first, she did not know it was him since the last time she saw him his Reiatsu could not be sensed. So she could not have thought it was him at first. She was not much surprised to see Ryukin show blatant hatred towards Naruto. The man hated Shinigami and Hollows. But he hated Shinigami more. And given Naruto's stature, it was obvious he would dislike the man. But Ryukin was very calm and matured. He would not have sought to attack Naruto when he was sleeping unless something had happened. Yoruichi smiled mischievously as a thought came into her mind. Yes, this would certainly get his attention. No matter how stiff he seemed, he had a woman in his life, he would react. And so Yoruichi flashed towards the blonde. She took off her top, exposing her naked chest. She moved closer to him and rubbed her chest against his back while she kissed his neck. But the blonde did not react. She continued her playfulness for a few more minutes, but the blonde still showed no sign of reaction, his body was just cold. Yoruichi moved in front of him to see if there was anything. When she appeared, she saw his eyes firmly on hers and he had this mildly amused look on his face. Yet there were no signs of flustering at what she had done to him or seeing her breathes. She was surprised by his reaction, that was not something she saw every day. She was sure even if she appeared in front of Yamamoto like this, he would certainly let loose of a few blood drops from his nose. If Shutaru saw this, she would kill you, Naruto stated in an amused tone, and a smile she not could tell what it symbolized. Shutara. She does not like it when another woman comes this close to me, Naruto said, his amused expression now a mere memory. It was not that ever since he took Shutara, he had gone close to any other women, but he knew the kind of person she was. She only tolerated Unohana because there was nothing she could do about it. For someone who was said to be a womanizer, you did not react the way I thought you would, Yoruichi stated, disappointment clear in her tone and expression. The fact that she was still topless was lost in her mind. Womanizer. Naruto said with a raised brow. Only Shunsui could have been the source of that kind of information. When people want to see things, you make them see them, he responded vaguely. Another one of your classic lies, Amaterasu stated, but Naruto did not respond as there was no need for him to do so. What is that supposed to mean? Yoruichi asked curiously. She did not understand the meaning of his words, hence her question. But by the look on his face, she doubted she would get the answer. Ah, I see you two are getting along, Urahara spoke entering the training ground with Ishin and Ryukin. Ishin seeing Yoruichi topless, immediately got knocked backwards with some blood rushing off his nose. The woman was quickly able to gain conscious of her current state, thus she quickly wore her top. Naruto then turned to Urahara, you are a bit late, but I imagine that you had to dig up some information before returning here, he stated as if it was the obvious thing. He knew that the man would have stayed behind to search and probe about his new change. Urahara made no attempt to deny it. He knew that there was no point in denying anything. Naruto did not even seem bothered by the fact that he had stayed behind to gather intel on him. When interesting things come by, it is hard for a scientist not to investigate, especially when it can give new research material, the former 12th Division captain responded smiling behind his hand fan. Naruto took a few steps forward, and stopped in front of Urahara, while ignoring the other two. How far are you? I have analyzed everything, but the puzzle is more challenging than I had thought. I have searched through all lost arts to find a way to solve it, but I have made little progress so far, Urahara stated, lying through his teeth. He said it so convincingly in his usual cheerful tone, the others definitely believed in his words despite not understanding what they were talking about. So you have made good progress then, Naruto stated calmly. Huh. Urahara responded. The others were also curious because he had said he had made little progress, but Naruto was saying that he had made good progress. If anything, the blonde must have misheard him. But that was not the case. No matter how much of a convincing act you put, I can see through all lies, Naruto stated, making Urahara and Yoruichi move uncomfortably. The latter had been told by the former that he had made good progress with the puzzle. But the man wanted to keep it from Naruto because during his research he had found some interesting things that made him curious. He wanted to satisfy his curiosity first before saying anything else. I will return soon. With that being said, Naruto disappeared in a black vortex, surprising the others. How did he know? Yoruichi questioned quietly. She was surprised that the blonde had not even threatened Urahara for trying to lie. He just took it as it was and left. It was true that he got what he had come for, but he had gotten it without Urahara saying anything. I don't know, Urahara responded with a sigh of relief that the blonde had not done anything because of his attempted lie. It would not have been good if the blonde had become angry because of his words. So it was a relief that the blonde just went away with the words, "I will return soon." That was not a smart move on your part, Yoruichi berated her friend in a stern tone. Someone would have been surely pissed off with the trick you just pulled. Yoruichi, when I told you of this, you did not seem to object, Urahara reminded her lazily. The woman was also interested in finding out more of the puzzle, not that he had told her anything about it to begin with. He was merely keeping her curious for now. It does not matter anyway. Nothing bad happened and next time I will remember to be honest in front of him. Why do you think he was not mad about it? The fact that there were other two males beside her seemed to be lost in her mind as she continued to question Urahara. I don't know, Urahara responded with a nonchalant shrug. It could be that he was used to lies so it did not bother him much. If he had not expected him to lie to him he would have surely been angry. But he was not. This could only mean that he had expected him to try to lie. This just brought the words of Shunsui back to him. He had been made aware of the fact that the man was likely to figure out anything planned against him. But he was not stupid. He could play well without being caught. You guys are so cold, how can you ignore us like this? Ishin questioned in a mock-hurt tone and a small pout. It was true that they were talking like he and Ryukin were not there. But it was nothing troubling. Ah, Ishin-san, I had forgotten about you, Urahara responded playfully while keeping his smile. Can we get to business? Ryukin said impatiently. Ah, you will never change, will you? But I guess I should not expect that from you. Urahara noted carelessly. Ryukin's attitude was nothing new to him, he was used to seeing the man like this. But there seemed to be something bothering him greatly. He is just pissed off that he shot hundreds of arrows at Naruto-san, which all hit him, and was told that it only tingled, Ishin stated looking happy about the fact that Ryukin's techniques were said to only tingle but at the same time he too was bothered by it. Yoruichi laughed seeing the scowl on Ryukin's face. Seriously? He actually said that. Yes, Ishin nodded while laughing at Ryukin's expense, but he was not forgetting that the situation was serious. That must have been damning to your pride, Yoruichi stated, to which Ryukin said nothing. I would be pretty much pissed if someone told me that my shunko only tingled. You said that he shot arrows at Naruto-san and the results were that it tingled. Urahara said in some rather serious tone. Ryukin was one of their strongest ally, he could not have his technique merely tingling the enemy. If so, it would make him useless in battle. Not that he was expecting to go into battle with Naruto. Yes. Ishin then explained what had happened during the confrontation with Naruto. This is troubling, Urahara said in a thoughtful look on his face. The others nodded in agreement with him. But let us not forget that he is not really an enemy. As it stands, he is with Soul Society and we are not enemies of the Soul Society, Yoruichi reasoned while she also agreed that it was troubling, they could not forget that he was not technically their enemy. Urahara pondered Yoruichi's words for a moment. He does not hold any to hatred Soul Society itself, but the Soul King, Sotecho in Central 46, he paused for a moment. Even with all his past powers, he never attempted to fight with Soul Society. He did not even try to fight the Soul King. I do believe that given his past glory, he could have gone to the Soul King's dimension, but he did not. Yamamoto and the Royal Guard are the ones who picked up a fight with him. He had power that even the Sotecho feared, so he could have brought chaos to Soul Society if he wanted to. What are you saying, Kazuki? It is likely that unless we pick a fight with him, he won't do any of that, Kazuki stated calmly. Yes, from the past actions of Uchiha Naruto, he could assume that unless provoked, the man would do his business without killing anyone. Are you certain? He had the chance to kill Yamamoto long ago, and yet he did not despite his obvious dislike of the man's principles. Urahara paused as he thought of something. Kyoraku and Yukatake Taicho are aware of this fact. That is why they are so relaxed around him and don't even have thoughts of killing him or even seeing him as an enemy. Yamamoto has known him long enough to know this, so does Unohana Taicho. He does not seem to be the type to have a problem with killing anyone, but yet even those who tried to stand in his way were merely knocked out of the way instead of being killed. It makes you curious, does not it? Ishin stated calmly. While it is curious, the same cannot be said for Hollows. He has killed any that even passed by him, Urahara said. He had been told that the man did not waste time to get rid of Hollows. Despite all that, it does not mean that we cannot be wary of him, Ryukin stated. That is true, Urahara stated with a nod. You can never stop being wary of the man. It is said that he dislikes Soul Society's laws and the only reason he became captain again was because Yamamoto forced him. Naruto had not said so, he had said the Soteicho had played his card. But the only conclusion he could come up with was that it was not in his plans to join something he had quit in the first place. He had refused when given the offer at first, so he had no doubt that Yamamoto had made Naruto join the force again by force. By force. Yes, when I asked him why he was captain after he had refused, he simply said that Yamamoto had played his card, Urahara responded quietly. Why would the captain commander make him join again when he knows the history of the man? Ishin questioned with a curious and yet confused face. He did not see the sense in Yamamoto's decision to force the blonde into the Gote 13 when they know that he did not want to be captain again. Regardless of how you look at it, Naruto-san's strength is needed with the conflict against Aizen. Yamamoto knows this. It is also a wise decision to keep him close rather than having him far away. It is also apparent that the Soteicho would have rather not have him unsealed, despite the uselessfulness of his strength. With him being close, he can be kept in tabs to ensure that he does not do anything. But the fact that he is not a threat to the lives in Soul Society, makes it easier for Yamamoto to work with him. Urahara gave a lengthy explanation to which the others nodded. Can this be interpreted as that Yamamoto does not care about Naruto's plots, that as if he has them? Urahara shook his head. Just because he got him back to the Gote 13 does not mean he ain't wary of the man. But with him being close he can keep an eye on him. But make no mistake, if Naruto-san did something that threatened Soul Society, Yamamoto would not waste time to try to stop him. So where do we stand with him? Yoruichi questioned curiously. She still did not get anything they were saying. Out of his way, Urahara stated with a calm look on his face. But if he plans to do anything against Soul Society, then we will have to stand in his way. But given everything, I doubt he will try anything against Soul Society. But knowing Central 46, they will probably try something against him. However, if his actions do not threaten the safety of Soul Society and our world, we will not act. That sounds reasonable, Yoruichi responded, to which Ishin nodded, but Ryukin did not respond. He was not going to agree with them. That is your own conclusion, the man stated calmly. His response did not surprise any of the three with him. I can never associate myself with Soul Society, so what he does there is not of my concern. But just to make things clear, I view him as a threat. Ishin decided to poke some fun into it, yay, but your techniques can't hurt him. Did you forget that he told you that they can only tingle him? Ryukin ignored the man before looking straight at Urahara. Can you solve this problem? Urahara seemed thoughtful for a minute. I can do some research, but I would need a sample of his DNA. But more specifically, a sample of his Reiatsu and see how it reacts to your techniques, the man responded calmly. The problem would be how to acquire that sample, Ryukin responded. He was a bit frustrated that Naruto could just shrug of his abilities like that. He was by no means no weak Quincy. His son could not even compare to him, but Naruto had the audacity to tell him that his power only tingled. I can figure something about that, Urahara responded before turning away from the other three. Where are you going? I have to do some research about Naruto-san's puzzle, and get some results before he returns. I also have other things to do, Urahara responded without even turning to face the questioner. You have to tell us about his changes first, Yoruichi stated, earning nods of agreement from the others. Saraite. Where have you been? Shutara questioned as soon as Naruto entered their house. She had been waiting for him for a few days now, she had not been having any contact with him. She hated it when he disappeared without telling her anything. During those days, he would never do something like this, he always told her when he was leaving. But now he was much colder and showed her little affection. That is how you greet me? Naruto questioned, looking straight at the woman. But he did not stop on his path, he looked away from her and went towards the entrance of his library. Shutara flashed in front of the door to block his path. She had this serious look on her face, it was obvious that she meant business. Anyone else would have been scared by the look she was giving, but not Naruto. He had years of experience with this thing, he also had Unohana, the experience was not lacking. There was also the fact that nothing really scared him, well, there was something. Where were you? You suddenly disappeared after Soy Fan came here. I had to hear from someone that yesterday you attended a captain's meeting and yet you have not been home. Is there a problem? Naruto asked in an even tone. Yes, Shutaro responded with a firm tone. Now answer my question, she had a narrowed look on her face. She was not expecting him to lie about it. He would rather not tell her than lie to her. I forgot that you women tend to become forceful sometimes, Naruto stated. Really, he should not have forgotten given that Unohana regularly did something like that. I wonder if you will go on a strike if I refuse to answer, he seemed to be really wondering about it as if this matter was not serious. I would do more than strike, no, perhaps I might strike a certain part of your body. The tone she used was certainly deadly, and cold enough to change the atmosphere of the place, but Naruto simply brushed it aside. You would try, but you would never succeed. If you do succeed, I can always regenerate it, unlike other Shinigami who cannot regenerate a destroyed part of the body as hollows do, he could do it with ease. Will I let you regenerate? You lost some of your abilities, despite possessing a high level of Reitsu, you cannot use it all efficiently. You might have even lost your immortality, Shutara stated some facts, no theories in a rather calm and controlled tone yet so threateningly. Naruto took 2 steps closer to Shutara. He stood just in front of her, at a point he could feel her breath touching his skin. I wonder if you think that because I am in this state you can actually put up a fight with me. Shutara did not back down, she stared straight into the blonde's eyes. You seem to be forgetting that I was a member of the Royal Guard. Are you forgetting that not even Unohana can defeat me? Have you forgotten how truly powerful I am? Her murderous Reitsu started to leak as she stated those words, but she was still calm as she spoke. I have not forgotten anything, woman. You think I might have lost my immortality, you think I cannot utilize all my Reitsu. You are indeed no weakling, Shutara, but you know as well as I do that you should not be saying things like that. Naruto paused for a moment. Especially when you belong to me. If I'm yours, then you are mine. Then what I say should matter, if it does not, you just want me to be your humble servant, I cannot be that. I love you, but it's high time you started treating me as your woman. You show Unohana more respect than me, her tone did not waver, she kept her straight face, not willing to back down. Is this what they call a rebellion? Shutara increased the output of her leaking spiritual pressure, causing cracks on the wall near her and the floor where she stood. Naruto. The effects of her Reitsu did not pressure him for a moment. He just stood still and seemed to think for a moment. Fine then, you have made your case, he sighed. I went to Hueco Mundo to kill some hollows, and the human world to handle some business. I was also moving around Soul Society handling some business. Could you have not told me that before you left? The time I left you seemed to be high in anger, giving you some space seemed necessary, Naruto responded. That was actually not entirely true. He just did not think of it necessary to her that he was going. I find that hard to believe, Shutara stated. But then again, Naruto really did not like getting involved in arguments like this. He would rather avoid them than find himself in the middle of them. How has your stay been here? Naruto questioned as he moved past Shutara to enter his library. He was curious, since his current relations with Central 46 were strained. He would not put it past them to try something stupid. But Shutara was a former member of the Royal Guard. That meant that in terms of power, Unohana and Yamamoto were the only ones who could speak with her. They would not try anything stupid with her. Annoying, Shutara responded, following Naruto from behind. I had to deal with some questions from Yamamoto in Central 46. But it was nothing extreme, just annoying. That should have been expected, Naruto said as he went to take a seat behind his desk. He had some unresolved issues with them that needed to be solved. But he was in no hurry to do so. But the problem was that they would do something stupid now that the Soul King was silent about him with them. But you should not leave me to handle the mess you create. I did not even know much about that incident since you insisted in keeping some details away from me, Shutara responded while she took a seat also, but she sat on Naruto's right hand on the desk, facing him. They questioned you because they wanted to, Naruto responded, brushing her words aside. But I should do something about leaving you in the dark, don't you think? You should, Shutara responded quickly, but she did not seem nor sounded excited by the thought it. I will, Naruto stated. What do you think you are going to be doing for now? It will be rather boring for you to spend much of your time in here alone. What do you propose I do? I am positive that Yamamoto has already offered you a job to do, Naruto stated, to which Shutara did not act surprised at all. It was indeed true that the Sotecho had offered her something to do. Naruto was most likely to conclude that Yamamoto would do that given her power and former position, and he had done just that. But SJE did not accept the offer because she wanted to hear what Naruto would say first. She was not going to repeat the same mistake she did long ago. He wants me to be captain of the 3rd division since the previous captain betrayed Soul Society. Shutara paused to look at Naruto's expression. She got nothing from it. She could not tell what he was thinking. What do you think of it? You would not have brought it unless you wanted to say something about it. Do what you want. You are used to working. I don't think staying in this house all your days will please you. So, you can go play captain for the time being if you want, Naruto responded as he opened a drawer to look at some files. I thought it would be good if I joined. Since you don't have a problem with it, I will inform Yamamoto of my answer soon. She looked at Naruto carefully. What do you mean, go play captain for the time being? Are you plotting something? Not really, Naruto responded with a shrug. He was not plotting anything, he had already plotted everything long ago. In this time, he was only making his plans come true, and changing a few things due to unforeseen circumstances. I will be heading to Hueco Mundo soon, you will leave with me. What for? Shutara questioned curiously. She understood that Naruto was not asking her though, he was merely letting her know. Despite that, she had the right to know why they were going there. I want to see what Aizen is doing, and also Yamamoto wants me to investigate what the child is up to. He was also very much interested in the thing called the Hogyuku. Aizen had it, it would not hurt to take a look. Central 46. The members of the court all looked at Naruto with hardened gazes. The blonde was much more trouble than the help he provided for them. So far, he had done nothing in assistance to the threat Aizen poses. All that he has done is trouble. The old court had done a blunder in allowing him to walk freely about this place with Yamamoto standing in for him and the Soul King standing in their way. But things had changed now. The Soul King rarely gave them instructions and he had not said anything about the blonde. The matter was in their hands and they could deal with it in any way they choose. It was a good thing for them that the Spirit King was not interfering. They thought that he must have learned from the past. Sheltering Uchiha Naruto did not bring him any good. It only brought about a headache that was troubling to deal with. But of course, they were not going to do things like their predecessors. They would not allow a rotten apple to infest other good fruits. If Uchiha Naruto was proving to be unmanageable, they would quickly put him down without much fuss and trouble. He did not pose a threat that he posed long ago. His power was not one that they could not handle, unlike before he was sealed. Back then, Yamamoto and Unohana had testified that his power was frightening. If the man hailed as the strongest Shinigami in the past 1,000 years could say that the blonde's power had been scary, what more could they do? They obviously could not act rushingly. But the Sotecho had said that they could handle him now given his current power. However, they would not do anything now since they already have Aizen to deal with. Since it was obvious that Naruto would never work with Aizen, they wanted to handle the man first, then followed by the blonde. If they decided to get rid of Naruto at this time, there would be much destruction and chaos within their ranks. The blonde was not the one to humbly accept an execution sentence. He would fight to avoid that and then the chaos would ensure. The traitorous Aizen might even take advantage of that and then try to bring them down. As of now, in their eyes, Aizen posed the bigger threat than Naruto. The man had the hollows with him that meant that he had an army. On the other hand, Naruto was a one-man show, well, not counting Shutara. Surely one that had an army posed the bigger threat. What more could a single man do? This silence is becoming annoying, Naruto finally said something after a few minutes of silence. He had entered the court for a few minutes, but his prosecutors were not saying anything, they were merely glaring down at him, which of course did not faze him. I will take me leave. Call me when you have something to say, he said, turning away to show that he was not actually joking but serious. There was a round of curses, but Naruto brushed them all aside. We called you here, you will speak when you are given the opportunity to speak, you will show us respect and not talk with us as you wish, know your place, Captain, and lastly, you will leave this place given our permission, is that clear, Captain? The man who said those words, spoke in a very calm and controlled manner. Unlike most, his tone was not loud to the point of annoying. He also had a straight face as he spoke. Naruto turned around to look at the man. He did not give the man anything, his expression merely remained blank. Interesting, I did not think that I could find one who could speak in such a controlled manner. Are you saying that we speak in an uncontrolled manner? It was more than one who shouted those words. That is what I am talking about, he received deathly glares for saying those words. Most of the members of the court I have had to deal with were so much lewd, they barked too much, but had no fangs to bite. They were also quite idiotic, he said it with a straight face. Bastard. Do you think we will allow you to speak to us like that without punishment? Come down, fellow members. The man who had first spoken to Naruto yelled. He looked back at Naruto, seeing the expression on his first. It was hard to read anything from him, but he had a feeling that the words were not meant as an insult, but he was just stating what he has observed over the past years. Uchiha Naruto, I believe you know why you have been called here for. Naruto rubbed his hand under his chin, seemingly thinking about something. He then folded his hands across his chest. Get on with it. Don't you dare think you can command us here. Another yelled before clearing his throat, we cannot leave what you did to Captain Soy Fawn and her men, unpunished. You injured a fellow captain and killed some of her men. What is the punishment? Naruto questioned in curiosity more than anything. We would have had you banished to the human world for some time or stripped you of your position as captain. If I go to the human world, I would likely cause multiple deaths, that is if you manage to force me into the human world. You cannot strip me of the captain's rank because Yamamoto forced me into taking the position. If you do that, you will most likely have relieved me. And there is a high chance that I might cause some damage. Naruto explained why they can't do any of this options they had for him as some form of punishment. Yes, you are correct, but the man seemed to smile slightly. We can demote you into a third seat for a number of months and force you to take orders from those who are weaker than you. He made sure to put an emphasis on the word weaker. A man like you hates nothing more than being told what to do. You dislike taking orders from those weaker than you. It will certainly put some dent into your pride. That is exactly what we are aiming for. But that is not all. You will apologize to Soy Fan. Should you fail to do that, we will punish either Unohana or Shutara for your crimes. Naruto seemed to think about it for a moment. He could simply tell them he was not going to do any of those. But it was not worth the effort. We take the silence as a confirmation that you will humbly accept your punishment. Naruto did not respond. He kept his silence. Good, moving on to the next issue. The disruption you caused a few days ago. Tell us more about it. You have already talked with Yamamoto, Shutara and Retsu about it. What more do you want? Naruto questioned, not seeing the point of having to repeat the same thing over again. He was going to tell them the same things as Unohana or Shutara told them. We want to hear it from your mouth. Why? Are you saying that you don't trust what Yamamoto told you? Are you thinking that he might have kept some things from you? I wonder what he would do learning of this. Yamamoto is a trusted subordinate of ours. He does what he is told. And besides, we have reasons to believe that you might have lied to him or not told him anything. If I lied to him, what makes you think I won't lie to you? What makes you think I will tell you everything? There is no reason. It seems that you won't say anything. The man seemed to sigh tiredly at this, as if he had expected such an answer from the blonde. But, we have a warning to you. A warning. Should you do anything that makes us suspicious of you, like an event such as the past one, we will take measures to ensure that you are silenced. What will you do? The whole court seemed to grin sickly at this question. We will seal you again. And this time, we will make sure that you are thrown into the deepest prison we have without any chance of release. Do you think you can seal me? Before that, can you even create a seal that is powerful enough to seal me? We may not be able to create a seal that can hold you forever, but the Soul King has given us 2 seals to deal with you should you become a problem. We can seal you anytime we want, and given your current power, we doubt you will be able to escape. Naruto smiled. It was true, given his current power, if he fell for a seal, it would be the end of him, unless the seal inside of him loses power. But if the seal is from the Soul King, then it was a product of that woman. Even when created long ago, her seals were a danger to him given his current state. That woman still haunts him even in her death. You are more prepared than the previous ones. He walked out and they allowed him to leave without another word.